As long ago as the 1830s, Sunday services of worship were held in a small log schoolhouse on the north side of Dundas, between what is now Royal York and Islington. Those worshipers came together to build a church. William Gamble, the owner of a grist mill on the Humber River, which is now the ruins are the old mill, where the old mill is today, purchased and donated the site for St. George's on the Hill. The 1840s church was built of rough cast stucco with large windows to let in lots of light. A gleaming steeple of tin cladding towered above the surrounding landscape. I found a newspaper article that reported on the first worship service held at St. George's. And I quote, "This beautiful little church was opened for divine service on Sunday last by the Right Reverend the Bishop of Toronto." The article went on to describe the sermon, the music, and the amount of offering collected. The sacred edifice, which has been thus happily completed, does great credit to the taste and judgment of the architect, Mr. Thomas, and with its graceful, well-proportioned spire, forms a striking object in the locality where it is situated. Altogether, it is one of the most picturesque ecclesiastical structures that we have seen in Canada West, and gives quite an English character to the surrounding landscape. Hello, I'm Jay Brown. I'm a member of St. George's on the Hill, and I'll be your tour guide inside the building today. As you step inside the vestibule, inside the church, you're standing in the original building from the 1840s. St. George's is the only historic church in Etobicoke who's retained the original building within its current structure and also has the original steeple. The nave, the long narrow part here behind me, formed the original structure of the 1844 church. Everything else has been added over the past 175 years. There was a gallery located at the back of the 1844 building. All that remains of the gallery are the two supporting iron columns. These were incorporated into a Gothic arch screen in the renovations that were done in the early 1980s. The transition molding strip a few feet in front of me is where the steps to the chancel were in the original 1844 church. When the floors were redone a few years ago, the 1844 floorboards in the aisle were covered with a very thin layer of plywood to make the surface as even as possible. Nevertheless, when you walk on this section of the floor, you can still hear the squeaks and indentations in the floor from the many worshipers who have preceded us. This is a picture of the chancel in 1860. The chancel is the part of the church near the altar reserved by the clergy and choir, which is separated from the nave by steps. Now let's speed forward 50 years to the 1890s. The original place of worship was no longer adequate to serve the ever-changing and growing community. So the parish jubilee was devoted to a major building project. Reverend Herbert Tremaine was St. George's incumbent at the time of the Jubilee. This account is taken from his book, Sketch of a Country Parish, and I quote, "The old building, which stood upon stone piers, was placed upon a solid stone foundation, which was built down sufficiently to give room for a fine basement Sunday school room. The walls were bricked, and large windows were replaced by smaller ones of cathedral rolled glass and lead settings to give a pleasing mellow light. Thus, St. George's was transformed from the original austere plaster Gothic with slender vertical lines to a brick exterior featuring a strong Tudor influence that continues today." Tremaine goes on to say, "The gallery over the west door was taken down, the old cumbersome pulpits removed, and a more modern prayer desk and lectern substituted. The church as it is now is one of the neatest and most convenient county churches in the diocese." The 1894 improvements were by no means the end of making St. George's what it is today. In 1929, to provide space for the growing Sunday school, the lower level of the church was extended to the east. This extension became the foundation of the new chancel, which was added in 1937. The raised floor of the former chancel was removed to make it level with the original nave, providing room for more pews. A new window was added on each side of the elongated nave, the oak paneling was extended forward, and a plaster chancel arch was built. To accommodate the burgeoning population after the Second World War, a large project was undertaken by the parish. This project added the transepts and extended the chancel and sanctuary to create the cruciform shape of our present building. This addition included demolishing part of the 1937 chancel, including the chancel arch, excavating the lower level further east, building the three-story addition for the transept, chancel, and sanctuary on the main level, the spaces in the lower level and the basement, along with new entrances and stairwells on both sides of the transept. The architect, Pete Cox, was a member of the parish. As a side note, Cox designed most of the homes in Thorncrest Village. Young married couples continued to flock to the area in the 1950s. As their families grew, so did the need for space in which to teach their children. 1960 marked the opening of the Christian Education Building. The architects were given the challenging task of building where the hill drops away to the southeast. They took advantage of the slope to position the Canada Hall Auditorium in the lowest portion of the site. Today, Kingsway College School occupies most of the Christian Education Building. It is an independent school established in 1989 that is closely allied with St. George's on the Hill. The priests at St. George's are also chaplains to the school. In that capacity, they lead chapel worship in the church for the students every week. In 1980, for the parish's 135th anniversary, major restorations began. These included a new roof, insulation of the exterior walls of the building, replastering of the nave, and the installation of memorial chandeliers. Structural issues were identified with the tower when the contractors removed the original wood lathe and plaster in the nave. Upon investigation, the tower was found to be sitting on rocks and dirt. As a result, the tower's structure was reinforced as part of the 1980 restorations. The spire was covered in copper and painted white. These are hand-wrought nails from the original 1844 building that were recovered when the lathe and plaster was removed in 1980. 4 years ago, the sanctuary underwent renovations for the parish's 175th anniversary. The pews were removed to install new flooring, and the walls and ceiling were repaired and repainted. Still, a church is not bricks and mortar. St. George's on the Hill remains an active, vibrant community to this day. Thank you.